It's January 21st and Trump's first day at work. Anyway, I had this little story I wanted to tell you. I was working in this town, and it had different departments. And they had like a little break room and a phone. And it was in the middle of the afternoon, and I'd been working, and I don't know what I had to do, but I stopped in there for a second. And another guy that I worked with, he wasn't. I didn't work with him, but he worked at that same place, and he happened to step in there. And about that time, the telephone rang, and he answered the phone, and it was his wife, but I didn't know at the time. So anyway, he slams the phone down and takes off for his pickup truck. So I'm thinking, well, it must be some kind of emergency. So I just take off running too, and I jump in the pickup with him. He takes off down the road. I said, where are we going? He said, we're going to my house. He said, my house is on fire. I said, all right. And he lived about 5 miles away from town. We made it probably in 3 minutes. Now his wife, I'd met her before. She was a good old gal. And she had told me one time, she said, Robert, she says, I'm praying for you. And it kind of shocked me because I didn't think anybody had ever prayed for me, you know. So, you know, I thought she was a pretty good old gal just for that, you know. Well, anyway, we get out there to his driveway, and there stands his wife, and she's walked up from the house about 100 yards. And we take off right on past her, right on down to the house, and we jump out. And I could see instantly she had a big pile of stuff that she'd carried out of the house, trip after trip. So she'd probably carried out maybe 10 or 15, 20 trips maybe, I don't know. But she had a big old pile of stuff out in the yard, far enough from the house it wouldn't burn, you know. The black smoke's just boiling out of it, you know. And I run up there and I open the front door, and the black smoke's all the way down to about a foot or so off the floor, you know. And I'm not sure what was burning, but it had to be some kind of petroleum products because it was that old black sooty smoke, you know. I mean, just nasty. And I thought, well, I could take it, you know, a little bit, you know. So we get the garden hose, you know, and I take off in there with the garden hose, and I can't take it. You know, it's just down too low, you know. Even down at the very bottom, it was still, you know, mixed, you know. It wasn't no pure air anywhere, you know. And I didn't know what to do, but you know, you had to do something. And in the front yard right there was one of the grandchild's tricycles, and it wasn't one of them small ones; it was about one of them medium-sized tricycles. Well, I run back out there in the yard, and I just grabbed it by the handlebar, and I slung it through their kitchen or their living room window, one of them great big windows. You know, people sit in the living room and look out the window. Well, I shattered it with the tricycle, and that let the smoke out. Then I mean, it poured out of that living room, you know. Well, got the garden hose and went back in there again. You know, smoke was coming up off the floor then a little bit, you know. And I made it through the living room into the doorway of the kitchen, and it was burning in the kitchen where the fire was at. And I started spraying with the garden hose, you know, trying to put it out. And the smoke cleared enough that I could see that it was electrical box is what was burning. And I thought, whoa, better stop me putting no water on that, you know. And I ran back outside the house. I said, boy, we got to pull the electric meter. I said, you know, it's the electric box that's burning in the house. As we pulled the electric meter, and that, you know, I thought that would, you know, at least make it where it wouldn't keep burning, you know, have a combustion, you know, with that power still feeding in, you know. And went back in there with it, you know, back through the living room again, got into the kitchen there, and the doorway of the kitchen. I started spraying in there a little bit. About the time I started getting it, just, you know, doing pretty good, getting it, you know, kind of out, the water pressure goes. Well, the wires that fed that meter we pulled fed the house and the well. So I ran back outside again. I said, boys, we're going to have to do something. Well, there's two other guys had followed us out there in a different truck. So there was 3 of them out there then, and they actually picked me up high enough that I could grab hold of the wires that was feeding into that house, the triplex, and cut them with a pair of pliers that I had, some Kleins, and pull the wires apart and stick the electric meter back into the socket. And then the power was off to the house, but the well was going. It didn't take maybe a couple minutes, and had the fire out inside the kitchen. Well, about that, after I got that part done, they're like, "Well, I think it's burning." I think it's burning up in the attic. Well, I didn't know, but there was like a double wall, and that breaker box was on one of the walls. But there was like a bedroom built on behind. The house was one of them old country houses where the homeowners had just built it themselves. And anyway, so we got the ladder, and I got up on the roof, and they threw me up an axe, and I started chopping a hole through the roof. Got a hole chopped through the roof right over where the fire was. I stuck the garden hose in there, and within a minute or two had it put out. And that extinguished the fire. The fire was out and everything, And I loaded up with those other two guys that followed us out there and went back into town, went back to work, finished out my day. True story.